Welcome to Law You Should Know. The law affects every aspect of our lives, our home, our jobs, and our recreational activities. Now you can learn about the law and how to protect yourself against the loss of your liberty or property. Learn how to stand up for your rights and seek compensation when you have been wronged. Your host for Law You Should Know is attorney Kenneth J. Landau with the Mineola law firm of Shane, Dox, Denisi, and Corker. He's a member of the Committee on Professional Ethics of the Bar Association of Nassau County and counsel to the Nassau Academy of Law. And now, here is your host for Law You Should Know, attorney Kenneth J. Landau.
Hi, this is Ken Landau, and welcome to Law You Should Know. Today we'll be talking with Richard Solomon, and he's an attorney and also the author of the book, Winning in the New York Small Claims Court. And he'll talk to us about how to win your case in small claims court. Richard, welcome to Law You Should Know.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Before we talk some details about and give tips to the public on how they can succeed in small claims court, just tell us about how you became to write this book.
Well, it's actually an interesting story. When I started having small claims cases with my clients, a lot of them said to me, Rich, would you take care of my case for me? And they were relatively small amounts, anywhere between $400 and $1,200. And I used to say to them, you can really do this on your own. And they'd say, you know, I'm not sure. It's technical. I don't know the law. I don't know the jargon. I'd rather have you do it for me. I said, no, you need to come anyway to the court because you have to prove your case. So if you have to go, why don't you just do it yourself? And this way you won't have to pay any legal fees at all. And you know the facts better than anyone else, and you really can do it. And so I started to write a little manual for clients that they take to the courthouse with them. It started out as a loose leaf, and then it grew into a 296-page book. Okay,
and this book is available at Barnes & Noble, and more, the public can get more information about it at the website smallclaimsbook.com.
That's correct. In fact, on the website I have a listing of all of the courthouses where small claims court cases are held in New York City, Nassau County, and Suffolk County.
Okay. And what are the limits now of bringing a suit in small claims court?
It's interesting that you should ask that because the law just changed. The new limit is now $5,000 in money damages. It used to be $3,000, but the law changed this month.
Okay, and what are some of the advantages of bringing a case in small claims court?
Well, I guess the biggest advantage is the low cost in accessing justice. For a relatively small amount of money, for about $30 in a commercial claim, you can bring your case and be heard in a relatively swift period of time, which is about 6 to 8 weeks.
And when you say commercial claim, is that a claim brought by a business or against a business or either?
If you own a corporation or a business and you're suing, say, a client who hasn't paid you, that's a commercial claim.
Okay, but the John Q. public can also bring claims. If they're suing a business, suing a neighbor?
Absolutely. In fact, most of the people who I come into contact with when I go to small claims court tend to be just regular people who didn't get deposits back or were paid for work that wasn't done or was only done in part. So it looks like most of the cases are non-commercial cases.
What are some of the most common types of cases brought in the small claims court?
I think the most common has to do with car accidents. People getting fender benders, they're suing for their deductible, there's some unpaid wage claims. In fact, I have the form in front of me, and the court has, for the New York City form, they have a little checklist, and some of the categories they have for goods sold and delivered, for work done and not paid for lease. I guess landlords can use the small claims courts to get money out of tenants. For rent, for automobiles, for repairs, and for services rendered.
And it could also be for a loan or if someone damaged your property or lost your property?
Oh, absolutely. But the most important tip for people who are in situations involving loans is to make sure that the loan is documented in writing and that there be proof of the money that was transferred to the person who is the borrower. And if you are the person who's defending against the claim, to pay by check or at least money order to show your at least payment or partial payment.
And in any type of case, it's probably going to be better if you have a stream of writings rather than relying on word and he said versus she said.
Both from a legal point of view and from a psychological point of view, you could never have enough really good evidence. Throughout the book and in places where I talk about small claims, I always say that great evidence will pave your way to success.
Okay, in terms of starting the lawsuit, you mentioned there are courthouses that handle small claims matters throughout the city in each borough, on Long Island and Nassau and Suffolk, and even upstate. Every community, every locality has a small claims court. It might be part of whatever the local court is.
Yeah, I think New York State has 62 counties, and each county has at least one small claims court in it, and some counties have many more than just one. On my website, there's a listing and a breakdown of all the courts and their phone numbers and their physical addresses.
And many of them meet at night, so that you can actually show up for the hearing at night and don't have to miss work?
Well, one of the advantages if you're a senior citizen or if you have a disability is, at least in the New York City civil courts, you can take advantage of a law that allows you to hear your case during the day if it would be an inconvenience or a problem to come at night. Also, if you're a night worker and you can prove that you are a night shift person, then you can have your case heard during the day.
And if you're in Nassau County, you'd have to file your case at the district court in Hempstead?
There's a 99 Main Street, Hempstead is the principal Nassau County Small Claims Court facility.
Okay, and going into the court to get the papers drawn or file your case, what exactly do you need and what do you have to do?
Well, the first thing you really need to do is research your case a little bit. Make sure that you have good documentation, things that are signed in writing if it's important, copies of canceled checks if that's important. Really look at your proof. The next thing is to do a little bit of homework, such as if you're suing a company, you can go onto a website that's run by the state of New York, and I'll give the web address, which is www.dos.state.ny.us. And that's the official website of the New York State Secretary of State. And that's where you can determine the full legal name and identity and address of any corporation that is registered in New York State as a corporation.
And if you're not sure whether you dealt with a person or a partnership or a corporation, can you sue all the possible variations of the entity?
You can, because small claims court is more informal than regular courts. But what's really good is if you show how well you're prepared, your case seems to be much more credible. And by suing the specific name, you will do much better. And one tip is, before you sue, sometimes you can call the defendant's offices and ask the person who answers the phone for the correct spelling and address of the corporation. Also, there are documents that generally have the correct names on it, such as canceled checks, letterheads, and possibly business cards.
Or possibly if you have some type of bill or receipt from them.
Precisely.
And in terms of what you're doing with the clerk is going to help you, or you're preparing some type of claim and that the clerk is going to docket for you?
Well, generally what happens is most small claims courts have a single one-page form that's very simple. Some of them, it varies throughout the state, but some forms are just check-off forms. Some of them just have a space that allow you to fill in blanks. And they're fairly easy to fill in. What you need to put in is your identity, your adversary's identity, the appropriate address, what is the nature of your claim, why are you suing, how much you're suing for, and when was the date that triggered the amount of money being due. What's that date? Because that's important for the court to measure not whether your claim is timely.
Okay, and how much time do you have to bring a case in small claims court from the date that triggered the event?
Well, it depends. If it's a breach of contract, which is generally money being owed, that's controlled by the statute of limitations for contracts, and that would be 6 years from the date of the breach. Now, there are some exceptions to which you can extend the statute of limitations, but generally it's 6 years.
Okay, and of course it was negligence, someone damaged your car or your coat or your house, that might be short of 3 years.
That would be the 3-year statute.
And it's certainly not a good idea to wait to the last minute, but...
In fact, one of the problems I've noticed in some of the students and classes that I've taught on small claims court is that I've seen people really wait beyond this period of statute of limitations. They're a little bit reluctant to bring cases, and only when the claim has languished for so long that their anger point reaches such a level that they say, okay, I'm really going to do something now. And generally by that time it's too late. And one thing is that the longer a debt is owed, the less likely it will be collected.
Okay. Let's just talk about the nature of the claims. Can you throw in several different claims or alternate claims?
If your proceeding is against the same entity, then you can throw all of the claims that you have against the same entity together. If you have different claims against different entities or people, you can still go to court on the same night, but you're only allowed to have 3 cases per night,
Okay.
and I think 5 per month.
And that's probably good if you're a business. You want to sue 3 different clients, you can file them at the same time. They'll all come on the docket the same night or day.
And the cases will be heard one after another.
Okay. And in terms of the amount of the claim, what's your advice on that?
One of the greatest mistakes I've seen in the small claims courts is that people inflate their claims. If the claim is for property damage and they have estimates for maybe, say, $2,800, they'll sue for the maximum, even though they know that their documented claims are much less. And I tell people all the time, whatever your claim is, whatever the right amount is, that's what you put on the form, and that's what you argue to the court as to what the amount is that you're seeking in damages.
By the same token, you should not reduce that. If you think there are other elements to it, if your car was damaged, you lost the use of the car, you had to rent the car, you had some personal property damaged, you might want to put all those things in to total out your claim, rather than just limiting it to the actual fender bender.
You should never understate your claim, ever.
Okay, and also you might have different estimates from body shops. As long as it's legitimate, you might want to put in the higher estimate.
Oh, absolutely. The problem really comes more with the overreaching.
Okay. You file the claim. What happens next?
Upon your filing of the claim, you're going to give the clerk pretty much exact change, or they don't take personal checks. So you should probably bring cash and bring exact change with you. And the courts tell you exactly as the fees keep changing.
Generally, approximately what are the fees?
It's about $25 to $30.
Okay, and who's going to serve the papers on the defendant or defendants?
Believe it or not, the court does that. The court sends the papers by certified mail to the defendant.
And that's built into the cost?
Absolutely, which is one of the great things about small claims court. That burden is relieved from you.
Okay. We're going to take a short break now. We come back, we'll continue our timeline here and find out what the person or business has to do next to successfully bring their case in small claims court. I'm talking with Richard Solomon. He's an attorney and also the author of the book, Winning in the New York Small Claims Courts. The book is available at bookstores such as Barnes & Noble, and also you can obtain more information on the book and on Small Claims Court on his website, smallclaimsbook.com. This is Ken Landau. You're listening to Law You Should Know here on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, New York. We'll be back in a moment.